What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. Today we got the big free agency episode, an episode I'm so pumped up about, so excited, and let's get straight up into it. So first we want to look over guys we should retain on the team, guys we should re-sign, some guys we should let walk. Then we look at the needs of the Bears, and then the potential free agent candidates and some sleepers the Bears could pursue. So I'm very excited for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you will have a great time, and let's enjoy this. So first of all, the facts for free agency. The Bears have about $30 million in cap space, which is okay. It's not the best situation, but we can work with it. We could bring in some big guys. So first of all, we need to talk about contracts that are up for extensions. And let me start off with all the names we have. We got so many of them. Bilal Nichols, A-Rob, Akeem Hicks, Jimmy Graham, Andy Dalton, Jason Peters, Tashawn Gibson, Jermaine Ifedi, James Daniels, Marquis Goodwin, Dermere Bird, Jakeem Grant, DHC, Alec Ogletree, Jesse James, Dion Bush, and also Patrick Scales and Pat O'Donnell. So a lot of big names, a lot of names that have been on the team for years, a lot of names that played important roles on the team. And let's go over every single one of them. Who should we retain? Who should we let go? So let's start off with Bilal Nichols. Definitely we need to bring him back. He's only 25 years old and very underrated. So we got that situation with Hicks going on right now. If Hicks walks, Bilal Nichols could very well fit that role of Akeem Hicks. We will play a 4-3 next season. He will definitely fit the role of a 4-3 defensive tackle. Bilal Nichols, I like him in that role, and I'm super excited for the future with Nichols. And he developed into one of our most important players on defense. And yeah, we should definitely bring him back. He is one of the core defensive guys that is excellent in the run game and also pretty productive in the pass rush. Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is a strange situation. Obviously, his bond with the team and with the coaching, especially in their organization, broke up last year or over the last 2 years, asking for a contract extension and not receiving it. But we also have a new GM in Ryan Poles. So I don't know if he can fix the broken relationship, but we can hope for the best, but at the same time, I'm like, let's bring in the fresh air. Let's bring in a fresh breather of air. And, I mean, the free agent market this year, the wide receiver free agent market is very strong. So I'm very insecure about A-Rob. He's also 28. He will turn 29 this year. Who knows how he will bounce back from these minor injuries? Who knows how he will bounce back in general? Because last season was not good. Yes, the coaching was terrible, horrible, but also, the relationship with Justin Fields wasn't the best. So, I like A-Rob. He was one of my favorite players, but I'm leaning towards letting him go. I don't know how he will react to a contract extension anyways, but also just with the free agent market, we will talk about that later, being so strong. Akeem Hicks. So, I know a lot of Bears fans are on the side of letting him go. He's too injured, he's too old, but Akeem Hicks for me is a no-brainer. We should bring him back if it is on a cheap deal. Yes, he is still a beast, and he probably wants a lot of money. That's why we won't see him back with the Bears, unfortunately, I think. But for me, he is still one of the best defensive linemen in the game. He's one of the best run stuffers in the game with incredible quickness. His hand quickness is insane. His get-up is great. And he can still rush the passer. And he is the Bears defense. Like, nobody on this defense plays with an intensity and with a love for the game like Akeem Hicks. Like, this will really, really be a tough loss for the Bears, but it seems like it's unfortunate. Next up, Jimmy Graham. This one hurts especially. Like Akeem Hicks and Jimmy Graham are two guys, one of my favorite Bears ever. Jimmy Graham, because I always was a fan of his, and I think we sadly have to let him walk. I was so excited when we brought him in, and he produced last year, or like in 2020, with a lot of touchdowns. He was a red zone machine, and last year in 2021, they decided to totally take him out of the offense. He had some touchdowns and some yards, but was it 150 yards barely? And I think we sadly let him walk. If I'm the Bears, I personally would retain him because he's such a great mentor and red zone threat still, but with the new coaching staff and how Ryan Poles will approach free agency and players, I think Jimmy Graham is sadly a candidate that will walk from the team. Andy Dalton, let's make this short. Let walk. He is way too expensive, and he doesn't produce at a level Justin Fields will be able to do next season. Andy Dalton, best of luck. Thank you for nothing, and yeah. Jason Peters, let walk. I liked how he performed last year. Great tackle still at the age of 40. Yes, he had his problems, but he had also his ups, and I think for me he had more ups than downs. But he is, like I said, 40, and I don't know if he even plays one more season. And the tackle depth the Bears have is good enough. Like, we should bring in guys, but with Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum, we're set for the future. Tashawn Gibson, let walk. We need a better strong safety. We need an upgrade at strong safety. Jermaine Ifedi, let walk. James Daniels, retain. Obviously, he is the best offensive lineman on the Bears right now. He is only 24, so he hasn't really reached his prime yet. Like, O-liners take a bit more to get in their prime, usually. Like, obviously, there are some that develop way quicker, but 24 years young, one of the best guards in the league. I don't know about that, but definitely the best guard on the Bears, and I like what we have in him. Marquis Goodwin, let walk. In free agency, there are way too many good options, and he didn't do too much for me. Demir Burt, next receiver. I would actually retain him on a cheap option. Like, he's a good fourth receiver. He's not a 3. He's a fourth receiver, great backup, and he delivered last year, kind of. Like, he wasn't insanely good, but I liked what he brought to the team, and I don't know, something about him. Jakeem Grant, let walk. This might be controversial because he's a Pro Bowler and he looked good in the Green Bay game, but Jakeem Grant, for me, he wasn't all too good. When you saw his returns, he took unnecessary returns and shots that gave the Bears very bad field position most of the time, and then he had his splash plays that obviously stood out. But for me, he's a candidate to let walk, but the Bears might re-sign him because of the Pro Bowl, and trade capital was given up for him to Miami, so this could be a reason for him to stay as well. DHC, we should definitely retain DHC. Deandre Houston Carson, he is one of the best special teamers on the Bears. Reminds me of old Sherrick McManus, the legend. And also a great backup at safety. You saw him coming into games and really take over. Made special plays, interceptions, turnovers. Like, DHC is a great backup safety to have with such a great special teams play. We should definitely retain him. Alec Ogletree, also retain. Played great last year. And Danny Trevathan has 1 year left on his contract. He will be a free agent next year. So, yes, we already have Danny under contract, but I don't want Danny Trevathan to be our starter besides Roquan Smith. Also, we're now in a 4-3 system, so we need different linebackers. And Danny Trevathan is okay for him backup, and we have to keep him. He's $5.7 million. He has a $5.7 million cap hit, but if the Bears cut him, the penalty is very high, so it's not really worth cutting him. So we're stuck with him. But Alec Ogletree, for me, played great last year. He showed what he's all about. He's tough. He's a tackling machine. He's fast. He's not the best in coverage, but we come to that later, how we should address that in free agency or via the draft. But Alec is a good player. I like him. Jesse James, I would retain him. We need backup tight ends. Yes, we have Jesper Horsted, and I don't know how they want to approach tight ends, but Jesse James had a great connection with Justin, and he's a solid backup. That wouldn't be that much of a expensive price. I don't think his contract will be very big after last year's performance, so it would be a nice guy to have as a tight end 3. And lastly, Deon Bush, let go and find someone else. Deon Bush played okay for the Bears for the last couple of years now, but I don't see him as a great backup and not as a starter at all. So I will let him walk. It's time to move on. And lastly, retain Scales and O'Donnell. Experienced special teams duo that is just fun to watch and consistently good, solid. Let's retain those guys. Moving on, we're talking about the biggest needs of the Chicago Bears. The biggest need for the Bears is, to me, offensive line. Protect your young franchise quarterback at all costs. And guys like Sam Mustipher or others aren't the answer for me. Also, how will Larry Borum develop? It's only one game, but the last game of the season against the Seahawks, he struggled massively. Like, the Seahawks don't have great pass rushers, and he got ran over time after time after time in that game. Oh, it was not the last game of the season, but in that game, he was terrible. And yeah, I'm just excited for him. He played very solid, but at times he really got baited. Yes, he's a rookie, and he was a 5th rounder. He has to learn a lot of stuff, but I think we should still bring in a veteran, in my opinion, to just let him develop a bit more. It doesn't have to be a huge contract for a tackle. And yes, offensive line is still the biggest problem. You want to protect Justin Fields. Next position, cornerback. We all know that Jalen Johnson is a cornerback 1, but we have no capable cornerback 2, maybe, besides Thomas Graham. He looked solid, and he didn't have a lot of playing time, but I loved what I saw out of him. But I wouldn't take the risk of naming him the starter immediately. Bring in a veteran presence with cornerback 2 potential or cornerback 2 play, and let Thomas Graham develop. Let him take the cornerback 3 role. Let him step in at times. That's what I would love to see. You should develop him slowly. Don't rush him. Leave him some time to learn. And for slot cornerback, I think we're pretty good with Duke Shelley. He showed that he's capable of playing that, and he's still on the rookie contract, so that's still a good deal for me. Wide receiver. This is a very fun position to look at because we only have Darnell Mooney and Daz Newsome on the roster or under contract. We have 2 receivers under contract for next season, and we desperately need help. We need a guy that can go up and get it and give Justin as much help as it's possible. Like, you can never have enough good wide receivers. And yes, we have Darnell Mooney, Mooney is just different, man. He is super fast, got great route running, amazing hands, actually, even though he had some drop issues last year. But I think he's very capable of returning to no drops next year. And he can go up and get it, but he's not your typical physical wide receiver at all. And he is not your typical jump ball receiver at all. So we need to get some help on the offense, on receiver, another wide receiver for the slot because Daz Newsome is not ready yet. So there's a lot to get back to and a lot of work for Ryan Poles to do. But I'm very confident in them to make the right choices. In free agency, the wide receiver market is insanely good. And in the draft, the wide receiver market will be great once again for the third straight year. So I'm optimistic that they will bring in the right guys for the job. And last up, the last important position, safety. Tashawn Gibson is gone. Alan Williams is the new defensive coordinator, and he was a safeties coach for the Colts before he went to the Bears. So obviously the DC is a very safety-heavy guy that knows how to coach a position. I think he will have a special eye on the safeties. Gibson is gone, so we need a strong safety now. And also this will maybe finally help Eddie Jackson, because we didn't have a strong safety, a true strong safety, box strong safety that went down into the box and helped the run game at all over the last years, even though we always said, we need one, so Eddie Jackson is able to drop back and read the whole field. That wasn't the case. Now Alan Williams is there. He will have a special eye on Eddie Jackson and hopefully for the strong safety position as well, and they will have a big plan for the strong safety in this new system. So those are the 4 main needs that we should attack in free agency. Obviously, there's some backup roles like linebacker or defensive line if some guys leave or we can't retain him. But that's the main 4 that we should focus on really to get going by the draft and free agency. Now, the big part, potential free agent targets. We will first of all start off with the expensive dream guys, the top 5 that I would love the Bears to bring in, but are not unrealistic because we could afford 1 or 2 of those. But those are big names that a lot of people are going after or will be going after. So the chances of the Bears getting them is fairly low. Let's start off with Teron Armstead. 30-year-old elite offensive tackle. He's a great pass protector and one of the best tackles in the league. He played for the Saints before for a long time. I don't think he ever changed teams. He always was in the Saints. And this would absolutely solidify the blind side of Justin Fields. Yes, we have Tevin Jenkins. Yes, we have Larry Borum. But hear me out. Jenkins to right tackle and let Borum learn, or consider a change to guard. Let Teron Armstead, the tackle that is over 30 now, play the blind side and be elite. On the right side, you have Tevin Jenkins in his favorite position, and Borum can either sit or move him to guard, which I don't know how it works out, but you could do that. You could put Borum to guard, test him during training camp, and if he does great, you can move either Whitehair or James Daniels, preferably Whitehair, to center. Now you have in Teron Armstead, James Daniels, Cody Whitehair, Larry Borum, Tevin Jenkins. Boom. Top 10 offensive line in the league. But he is on the wrong side of 30, and to me, that doesn't matter at all. I know that's a fact that a lot of people bring up. If a guy's in their 30s, they can't perform anymore. But consider this. What happened to Trent Williams? What happened to Andrew Whitworth? Both are top 10 tackles, and both are way above 30. The thing is, the trend is with offensive linemen the last couple of years, they really expand their careers and just have long careers in general. So I don't see a problem with the age. The only problem I have, the big negative, is the injury history. And yes, it worked out for the 49ers and Trent Williams. He was injured before a lot and is now, with ease, the best offensive lineman, maybe besides Quentin Nelson, in the whole NFL. But the guarantee that something like this works out, taking a shot at an injured player, the chances are fairly low to actually work out. But Teron Armstead played at elite level for years, and I would love this pickup. It's a risk, but the reward is the sky's the limit with him. Moving on, Chris Godwin. Ooh, yeah. Chris Godwin would be an absolute dream. And first of all, why not Devontae Adams? Let me tell you why. First of all, he's a Packer. Second of all, he's older than Chris Godwin, and a lot older. He's 29. Godwin's only 25. And he probably sticks to Aaron Rodgers. So I don't see him parting ways with Rodgers. It's like the Gronk Brady connection. I don't see him moving on to another team. So Chris Godwin for me has the highest value out of every receiver in this free agency class. He will turn out 26 in a few months, so he will be 26 when the season starts. He has great speed, hands, and can go up and get it, as well as elite route running, a lot of playoff win experience, and a Super Bowl experience. So a very experienced guy that knows how to win, that is super fast, amazing route running, and has great hands, and has a go up and get it mentality. Not much as his partner in crime, Mike Evans, but still a very good receiver. He finished the season with 98 catches, 1,100 yards, and 5 touchdowns, his second 1,000-yard receiving season in his career. And this would be just amazing, having Darnell Mooney and Chris Godwin, instant top 5 receiving duo in the league. The negative, as with a lot of free agents, injuries. He just had a big injury following last season, and just tore his ACL. Very A-Rob-like, this situation. The potential would be insanely high with him. So, he will be expensive, but this would be a dream. Number 3, J.C. Jackson, cornerback from the Patriots. Only 26 years old with crazy production. 5 interceptions in 2019, 9 interceptions in 2020, and 8 interceptions in 2021. This is insane. He's an absolute turnover machine, which would perfectly fit Matt Eberflus and Alan Williams' vision. Like, they had a top 10 turnover defense with the Colts in every of the 4 years they've been coaching there. So he would just totally fit the defensive mentality. And he's a true man-to-man corner. To me, a true lockdown, which would make him with JJ instantly the best cornerback duo in the league, or maybe the best secondary even, depending on who we will sign as our strong safety. He is able to shadow guys. He would be an absolute dream signing to solidify the defense, but he will be very expensive as well. Like Chris Godwin, 26, J.C. Jackson, 26. Those young, talented players are strongly pursued, and I don't know if we will be able to get him. Just the thought of him and Jalen Johnson being back, this is a great thought. Let's see what will happen. Number 4, Mike Williams, another receiver, and definitely a different receiver than Chris Godwin or Darnell Mooney. He's a 6'4" physical beast. He would be the perfect addition if you're looking for a big, powerful, go up and get it receiver who will win 50-50 balls and make it a 70-30 chance. He's the third best receiver on the market besides Davante Adams and Chris Godwin. Former first-round pick and developed into a very reliable target for the LA Chargers. He just had 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns last season. His second 1,000-yard stint. He is 27, not too old, not too young, just in his prime, and this will be also a great addition to the Bears, giving that physicality, that run blocking ability, and that jump ball ability to the Bears offense and Justin Fields. So we'll absolutely love this addition. And lastly, number 5, Stefan Gilmore. He's still a top guy in the league when healthy. That's a problem. Will he be healthy? He had some injury issues, but I think he can overcome them, and if he stays healthy, he's still a top guy. He's a veteran who was Defensive Player of the Year just a couple of years back, with great size, speed, and instincts. Elite instincts. He's a lockdown man coverage guy, and this would be a very low-risk addition to the Bears. Get him on a 2-year deal and just make this one of the best cornerback rooms in the league. And a 2-year deal is nothing. You can, first of all, develop your guys in that time, and you will have elite cornerback play for 2 years, almost guaranteed. Like I said, if he stays healthy. Negative with him, he's on the very wrong side of 30. Cornerbacks that are over 30 tend to become very bad, very fast, but I don't see him going downhill that quick. So love the addition. Another great cornerback on the list of those guys that are available. And yeah, imagining Jalen Johnson with J.C. Jackson or Stefan Gilmore just seems deadly to me. And let's finish this off with some honorable mentions. 2 guys I will absolutely love the Bears to sign, but I'm not sure if they will not actually be re-signed or franchise tagged by that teams. Ryan Jensen, veteran center, will love this pickup. He is absolutely nasty. He's one of the nastiest centers, O-linemen I know in the whole league, and he's playing elite football, and I don't think he will leave the Bucs. That's why I didn't put him on the list. And lastly, Carlton Davis, young, great cornerback with cornerback 1 potential, but he has to be more consistent. Like, he's very inconsistent. At the very least, he's a cornerback 2 with, like I said, the upside to be a cornerback 1. But just like Jansen, I don't know if he will be tagged or re-signed by the Bucs because they play such a big part in their team. Let's look at some sleepers. This is probably the most fun part about whole free agency, looking at guys that won't get the biggest contracts, that are still very, very good and productive, and could become even better playing on the Bears. So let's start off with, I call this category sleepers, but actually not really a sleeper, Michael Gallup. And let me tell you why he's a sleeper for me. His injury history. He has a lot of injuries, but the player itself is amazing. It's very concerning though. He's only 26 when the season starts, and he has this many injuries. Like, it's not like you're taking a shot at a Chris Godwin who had a torn ACL, but Michael Gallup has consistently had very bad injuries. But he is an amazing route runner, has amazing hands, makes spectacular sideline catches, When you look at some tape of the Cowboys, he just makes insane contested catches and insane sideline catches or sideline grabs. Like, his tiptoe ability is spectacular. And I just love him as a long shot. He's one of my favorite receivers, actually, in the league. Him and Mooney would be crazy. Like, route running of those two guys will be scary for defenses. He had 1,100 yards in 2019 and 850 in 2020. But the struggles to stay on the field are really just overshadowing his performances and his value in free agency, and this is why he is a sleeper to me. I don't know how much money he will make in free agency, but if he really considers a smaller deal to play with Justin Fields for a couple of years, I will gladly take that. That would be absolutely insane. Number 2 of the sleepers, Steven Nelson. Ooh. He's a cornerback who is a bit on the older side. He is 29 years old, but he is in cornerback 2 with no injury history. Like, he had minor injuries here and there, just like every player has. We're playing contact football, hard football, where injuries are a daily thing, and only having some minor injuries is actually something amazing to achieve as a player. And he's durable and makes some plays here and there. He won't make you go crazy, but this would be the perfect cornerback 2 with good ball skills and great coverage and physical play. He may lack big play potential, but this is all we need, and he would take a smaller deal. Contract projection by PFF says 2 years, $14 million, $7 million a year, and I think the guaranteed money is even less, is less than $14 million. So this would be a deal you gladly take as the Bears, and I will absolutely love it. Next up, Ben Jones, center on the Titans. And let's start off with the negative, kind of. He's 32 years old. But just with the tackles, look at guys like Jason Kelsey. He's 34, so 2 years older, and still playing at an elite level. The question with those older guys is always, how long do they actually want to still play? But that's something you can consider in contract negotiations. Ask him, hey, yo, how long do you still want to play? And let me tell you about Ben Jones, because he's super underrated. He has been a top 10 center in the league for a long time now. He's very underrated. He spent 3 years in the top 10 centers of on the PFF list, and he is at its best in a zone running game. Also, durability. He almost is never injured. He's 32 and played over 1,000 snaps in the last 7 of his 8 seasons. This is insane. And you just gotta love it. He's nasty. He is amazing in the run game. We want to involve the run game. It all depends on how Luke Getsy sees the offense and what he wants to establish here in Chicago. But we still don't know that, so Ben Jones seems like a top candidate for me for the Bears to sign. He would be an immediate veteran presence that becomes a leader, besides Cody Whitehair, the most experienced, and he's even more experienced than Cody Whitehair on the offensive line. And the contract projection would be 3 years, $20 million, $6.6 million a year. That's not too much for a center. It would be an insanely high upgrade over Sam Mustipher, who I don't want to see make a snap ever again as a Chicago Bear, maybe as a backup, but he's not a starter. He doesn't have starter potential to me. Get a veteran who will have a great relationship with Justin Fields and show these young offensive linemen how to lead, not only on the field, but also off the field, which is a very underappreciated part of some veterans. They can show them how to maintain their strength, how they should approach training, how they should approach going to the gym and working out. So I would love the addition of Ben Jones that will bring so many positive aspects to the Bears organization on a cheap deal. Now we have a split up. 2 safeties I want to talk about. First of all, Jordan Whitehead, strong safety from the Bucs. He's a classic box safety with good run defense and just a downhill player. He is 25 years young, so there is room for development, and he would free up Eddie Jackson. Problem with him is he's not the best in coverage, and we still don't know how Coach Eberflus and Alan Williams will approach defense in Chicago. Obviously a 4-3, so you think about the strong safety being more of a coverage guy that drops back in your Tampa 2, but I would see him as a great run supporter. You could bring him down in the box and just be very effective and let Eddie Jackson sneak back in the sneak on the backside of the field and just grab down some balls and make some plays again, something we've been missing for so long. So that's the number one guy, the real classic box safety. And 4.2, Jayron Kearse, strong safety from the Cowboys. He is a huge guy, 6'4", 27 years old, so still young. And he's a very well-tackling safety who excels at covering tight ends, which could also free up Eddie Jackson. You got the two variants now, Jordan Whitehead with the run support and Jayron Kearse being the coverage man-to-man tight end guy who is huge, who's also amazing at tackling and could support the run as well. Maybe not as well as Jordan Whitehead, but he has that coverage ability. Problem is, he hasn't really played in a traditional zone scheme yet, but he could be a very secret weapon to stop tight ends who are a developing role in the league. Looking at Kelsey, Gronkowski, Kittle, Waller, Andrews, and his contract projection would be 3 years, $50 million. You take that. He's 30 then, you can let him walk, get 3 very productive years out of him, shut down tight ends. He's a big guy, 6'4", like I mentioned before. He can help in the run game and be very cheap. This would be an amazing signing, very underrated player that is not on the radar of a lot of people probably, but this would be a great pickup by the Bears if they manage to get him somehow. And lastly, we got to talk about some linebackers. And one linebacker that stands out to me, Kaizir White. He's a great off-ball linebacker who could fit the 4-3 system perfectly in Chicago. He tackles well and is amazing in zone and underneath coverage. The only problem with him is he doesn't get off of the blocks too well and is not the best run defender. This whole situation with linebackers will depend on Roquan's role. I see him as the will linebacker, the athletic linebacker that is given space, that covers, that tackles, that just does it all. Your all-around guy on defense in a 4-3 system. This will be Roquan probably. Like, I don't see him playing any other role on this defense, maybe inside linebacker or Mike linebacker, but will linebacker seems to me as the perfect role for Roquan. So Kaizir White could be the Mike in this Chicago Bears new system. He's not the best run defender, like I said, but as the Mike linebacker, you gotta eat some blocks for the will to make some plays. So that's something he is capable of. Even though if he doesn't get off the block, he at least eats one. And he will be amazing at covering underneath routes and deeper zones. So this just seems to me like a perfect pickup for the new defensive system. You could put in Alec Ogletree as a Sam linebacker. Yes, he needs to be a bit stronger maybe, but he has to be a tackle-heavy guy, which he is, and a good run defender. I like Alec Ogletree as a run defender. Don't make him cover too much. This would be the perfect role for him. So I could just see that working out. Alec Ogletree, Kaizir White, and Roquan Smith. That would be an amazing linebacker core. Even talking about it pumps me up. And the best part about him, he's only 26 years old. So he got a long-term guy that will be hopefully pretty effective in your system. So those are the 5 or 6 with the 2 strong safeties guys I would love the Bears to pursue. Some sleeper guys not everyone has on the radar. And with that, we're finished for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. It was so much fun talking about all these free agent targets, and just let me know in the comments if you want to see another episode of those. It's just so much fun making videos for you guys. I love the Chicago Bears. I love talking about them. I love to give my input on it. Stay tuned for a lot of draft coverage that's coming up. Maybe some more free agent episodes, coaching staff updates, and also preseason stuff and training camp updates as soon as everything starts. So thank you for tuning in. I'm hoping you have a great start into the week. And as always, guys, bear down.